Hey, so today we're at the Jenischpark in Hamburg and it's kind of dark and cloudy outside today, but I guess we'll try our best and get some moody shots. As soon as I walked up to the Jenisch house, which I actually found out was a private house earlier and now it's a museum, the feeling wasn't moody at all. After I shot the first picture, the colors seemed to be very warm and welcoming, so I tried to emphasize this feeling in the editing. I really liked the look of the saturated greens and the light blue in the sky. Then I walked a bit closer and changed my focal length to isolate the house a bit more, and this is what I came up with. I really like this composition because I think leaving some more space for the grass emphasizes the greens a bit more. Then I stepped in a bit closer and made another wide shot because I thought the composition with the people worked a lot better than in the first picture. My next location was this white museum covered in trees. I really liked the walls of the museum because it had such a nice brick texture. I loved how close it was to the trees actually. What I didn't really like too much about this picture was that these figures on the wall, which you can't really see right now, are completely hidden by a branch. So this is why on my next picture I walked a bit to the right and went in a bit closer so you can at least feel those figures hiding behind those green branches. What I didn't see on first glance was that the windows actually reflected the wall and the grass on the floor, which created a nice effect. For this picture I only tried to capture the part of the wall with the figures in front and left some space for the trees above and the ground. I really liked that the floor wasn't even and creates a kind of diagonal line from left to right. The next shot was showing more of the interior of the museum. I really like the color contrast in the rooms. On the left you have a daylight blue coming in from a window, and on the right you have those tungsten lamps which create a warm feeling. On the next picture I showed the figures on the wall and left some negative space on the left side to show a bit more of the wall texture. I really liked the fall off from light to dark from left to right. For the next frame I went to the other side of the house, to the title of the museum reading Ernst Barlach House. What I really liked about this frame was the color difference between the browns, the greens and the whites, and also that this part of the wall really harmonized with the surrounding nature. For my next picture I walked up to this pretty weird shaped tree. It was really flat and weirdly shaped, and the leaves were so dense that you couldn't really see inside. I actually found out that this park has a lot of trees that are over 200 years old, so over the years this tree has grown in a really interesting way. I walked in a bit closer and found that there was actually a hole so you could go inside, but I first captured a close-up of the leaves because I found them really interesting because they were so small and dense. By the time I went in to take some photographs from the inside, I was really amazed by how the branches have grown in a really curved way. For my next set of photographs, I approached the Jenischpark from this giant scenic park. For a second, just try to imagine the view from the balcony in winter mornings or summer evenings. Now I went for a bit closer front view of the house with a group of people inside. I really liked that those darker clouds really had some nice texture and contrast in it and created a nice color difference to the greenish and yellowish of the ground and the house. For the next shot I just widened my focal length to around 24mm to capture more of the scene and to show more of the foreground and the clouds. Now I've zoomed in quite a lot and waited for the two people on the right side to be at the side of the building. The problem with this view is that you can only guess the shape of the whole object, and that's why I chose to go on the right side to get a more three-dimensional perspective. What I liked here was that the garden actually had a little fall off from left to right. What could have made the image a bit better was that the grass was perfectly green, but there are some dry spots at the ground and that's perfectly okay because it's really dry at the moment, and editing this in Photoshop wouldn't really feel right. For my next set of images I went to this fairly scenic park view. I really like that there are some shadows on the grass in the front and some darker trees to separate the layers a bit, and I also think that this sparse and rotten tree also gave some interest in the frame, although you can't really see it too much. In my next image I tried to isolate the big tree in the background, and I also tried to incorporate people in the frame. I really wish I hit the shutter button a bit earlier so that the bicycle driver would be in the middle of the road, but well, I waited a bit too long. Now I went over this beautiful bridge which had an even more beautiful view. This was actually my second attempt doing this photograph because when I first took the image the sun wasn't out, and what I really liked now was that the sun hit the background and created some layers. I also like that this rotten tree has really gotten some interest now. Now I headed for a more open and wider area of the park. I really like this single tree composition here, with the light creating some hard shadows, and you can also feel some shadows of the trees on the ground. I am really sorry for this weird perspective now, but what I wanted to do here was to give the shadows on the floor a bit more space and room in the frame to create some more interest. Even in awkward positions, sometimes it's best to wait. What I tried here was to frame the two people in the tree. I also have gotten some more foreground with those tiny white flowers and a bit more shadow to create a bit more interest. As soon as I've taken this picture, I turned around and I saw the sun hiding behind a tree. I really liked the shapes that those light paths created. A nice detail is also that there's a tiny group of people walking in the distance. I went further down the park to get another angle on the big tree. I also wanted to capture the couple walking on the road next to it in the frame. In this photograph I really like that the light is fairly soft right now and the colors are still bright. I went further down the park and saw this pathway with trees next to it. I like the organic shapes of the shadows, which almost cover the whole frame. You can already feel that it's getting later and the sun is getting lower. That's why the shadows are almost stretching across the whole frame in this one. For my next image, the tree in the background has drawn my attention. I really like the earthy tones from the grass at the bottom and that there's a shadow in front of the frame, which is actually from a pathway. I think it looks quite simplistic and nice. What would have been great if I had captured people walking across the path, but yeah, at this location nobody wanted to walk through my frame. So for my last picture I only turned around again and saw this beautiful light coming from the right side, and I just loved the diagonal shadows that it created in the bottom of the frame and the small people walking in the distance. So what I've taken from this walk is that sometimes things come unexpected. Always be open for the mood and the weather to change and be creative with it. For now, I'm going to enjoy the evening and the sun setting in the park. See you next time.